science. What is art? What happens when science and art combine? Many of the greatest technological innovations of the 20th century onwards have revolved around that propeller of man, the engine. But what if the future lay in the conservation of energy captured all throughout the motor vehicle? Today we present the very first step. Ladies and gentlemen, to you, the kinetic energy recovery system. 4 words that mean more to a cleaner transportation system than anything before it. What if every time you braked, every time you turned, every time you lost forward motion, all the entropy wasn't entropy anymore? Kers is that very first step. Now, I direct you to Sebastian Vettel, Formula One champion, in explaining the connection between Formula One and Kers.
I'm Sebastian Vettel, and this time I'm reporting about the adjustable rear wing and Kers. Every time you step on the brakes, the kinetic energy is caught and directed to an electric motor, where it's converted into electrical energy and stored in batteries. At the push of a button, an additional 80 brake horsepower can be sent to the back of the wheels, either in small doses or all at once for about 6 seconds. Kers can make the lap time quicker by around 0.3 seconds. But as a rule, to overtake, you really need to be about 1.5 seconds faster per lap. Since most drive with Kers, in the race it is more of a strategic aid. How do you distribute your Kers power over each lap? You might need it for defense, or perhaps even keep it for an attack. Kers helps in qualifying, but its best moment is at the start. Drivers with Kers have already got fully charged batteries in the start formation. If a gap appears, you build more easily or defend your position in front. In the race then, Kers can really tip the scales. Instead of the front wing, in 2011 we can change the aerodynamics of the car at the rear. We are allowed to adjust the rear wing, which reduces drag, but only in defined overtaking zones and when we are close enough to the car in front. When you leave the slipstream, you kind of bounce against a wall of air. The adjustable rear wing can make the car more streamlined and give you about 10 kilometers more speed.
Now, if you don't mind too much, we'll give a brief history of Kers. It was originally developed by the automaker McLaren in about 1999. Now, a brief history of Kers. The system was actually developed by the automaker McLaren in early 1999. Later that year, Mario Magnetti, a noted F1 engineer, actually came up with a second system. These are the first 2 recorded incidents of Kers starting. Now, just to give you a brief definition, Kers is a collection of parts which takes some of the kinetic energy of a vehicle under deceleration, stores that energy, and then releases that stored energy back into the drivetrain. Now, as you can tell, this is quite an amazing technology. So, the connection is, Formula One has developed some of the greatest technological advancements in the world of automotive technologies, since probably 1950. F1 has done back fins, which have improved aerodynamics in all cars. Especially noted are BMW and Mercedes. Point being, Kers in Formula One acts as a tool. It's a strategic weapon, as explained by Mr. Vettel. Now, we're actually going to move on and talk a little bit more about the physics side of the deal. So, Mr. Producer. Now, there are actually 2 types of Kers. One is an electrical system and one is flywheel. Now, as you know, an electrical system, basically what it does is it takes the energy given, converts it into a battery, and then puts it back into the system. A flywheel, on the other hand, stores it in a flywheel and then re-enters it into the system that way. So now to explain the finer details of the Kers system and the electrical mode, Mr. Arden Barnett.
Thanks, Wilson. Well, as Wilson said, the electrical Kers system is a rotational braking force that is basically captured by an electric motor or generator called the MGU, which most commonly is mounted on the crankshaft of the vehicle. Now, this MGU takes electrical energy that it converts from the kinetic energy and then holds it in a lithium-ion battery. Then, this allows the driver to press a button on his steering wheel that summons the energy all in about a lifespan of 10 seconds. So, what it is basically a limited duration turbocharger. The most common storage unit is the lithium-ion battery. But as Wilson will talk about, the flywheel is also a common Kers system.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. Now, a flywheel system, it was actually developed by Williams Racing, which is a F1 team, mostly because they feel that the transition of energy from kinetic energy to potential energy stored into a battery and chemical energy, back into potential energy and into kinetic energy, is a waste. So, they sought to eliminate the middleman and created the flywheel system. A flywheel, as you know, is basically a disc. Here is a pictorial representation, but I'll use my hand. It spins at generally about a 5-to-1 input ratio, so if you input at, say, 5 RPM, the flywheel begins spinning at 25 RPM. Now, what happens is, whenever this energy is stored there, it generally has a series of gears and interlocking mechanisms that allow it to create that energy. Once spinning, it is separated from the main body. It holds this energy through centrifugal force and through the amazing amount of kinetic energy that's generated. Once this system wants to be reintroduced, you simply apply a series of brakes or discs, and it reconnects with the transmission, as noted here, runs back into the drive shaft, and provides an extra amount of torque and power to the vehicle. Actually, one of the interesting points of it is that it never actually changes from kinetic energy. It always maintains that form, and therefore Volvo has chosen it as the most efficient. Now, Mr. Barnett will actually come up and speak to some of the material potential of Kers, mostly in the vein of economics.
Thanks, Wilson. Well,